Only eating at Popeyes for a full day. So for breakfast, of course, I had to start off with a biscuit. I heard you're supposed to add honey, and oh my gosh, you guys, it was so warm and soft, and the butter flavor was really, really strong. And then I had to try the iconic classic chicken sandwich, and I mean, like, it's delicious. The piece of chicken they gave me was so thick and juicy and like perfectly crispy. Also, the brioche bun like really does add a little bit of sweetness. And then I tried these Cajun fries with blackened ranch, which has a great like peppery kick, and their Cajun fries are so crispy. They're almost like battered. I don't know, but they have a great crunch, and the sweet heat sauce was really good too. Then for lunch, I tried their hush puppy shrimp that came with cocktail sauce, and the hush puppy breading is super thick, but personally, I really like that. They were also nice and tender, and the Cajun seasoning is just so delicious. And I was so excited for these Cajun mashed potatoes. They were really nice and fluffy, but the gravy is to die for. Like, the spice adds so much flavor and goes so well with the creamy potatoes. And I also got their cinnamon apple pie, which has a thick coating of cinnamon sugar. The filling was warm and kind of like gooey. It could have had more apple chunks, but it was really nice and crunchy. And finally for dinner, I tried their home-style mac and cheese, which was intensely cheesy, like so much cheddar flavor, and the noodles were a little mushy, but I don't know, I still liked it. I also got these chocolate beignets, which were absolutely drowning in powdered sugar, but they were like super puffy and light too, and chocolatey and warm, kind of amazing. And that's all for today. Thanks for watching. Only eating Australian snack foods for a full day. So I just ordered all of these Aussie snacks from Bussin' Snacks, and I started off with these TV crispy creams that were super crunchy, and the sprinkle glaze kind of reminded me of a Pop-Tart. And I loved these lemon ones. The flavor really came through. They were like tart, tangy little biscuits. And you already know I had to try some Vegemite. My Aussie friend said to butter some toast and then add the spread, and honestly, I really liked it. The flavor is hard to describe, but it's like definitely salty and kind of rich, like an umami flavor. I don't know, you just have to try it. Then for lunch, I tried this mint chocolate chip Kit Kat. Oh my gosh, it literally tasted like mint chocolate chip ice cream. Super like milk chocolatey too. Honestly, one of the best Kit Kats I've ever had. And then I made some fairy bread, which I guess is a common food at kids' parties, and it's just white bread butter and these hundreds and thousands sprinkles. So like, what's not to love? It's like soft and crunchy and sweet and buttery. And I think Maltesers are way better than regular malt balls because the chocolate coating is a lot thicker and smoother, and they're perfectly crunchy, but then they just kind of melt in your mouth. And oh my gosh, this peanut butter Kit Kat was incredible. The peanut butter flavor really came through. It's basically like a crunchy Reese's cup. Absolutely delicious. And then finally, I tried some Tim Tams. So basically, you're supposed to bite the corners off, and then you can eat them with like tea or hot cocoa, and you take a few sips through the Tim Tam, and it gets all melty and soft. Literally so rich and chocolatey. Incredible. And that's all for today. Only eating British food for a full day. Of course, I had to start off with a full English breakfast, and you guys, this smelled so good. And I've never tried beans on toast, but they go so well, like the rich baked beans with the crispy fried bread. It's the perfect texture. And then the savory pork sausage goes so well with the juicy tomato. Like, I could probably eat this every day. Then later we went to this English restaurant where the menu was huge, and I tried these royal pretzel rolls, which I feel like are more of a German thing, but the cheese sauce was so smooth and garlicky, and I love pretzel bread. It's like super salty and soft. And you already know I had to get fish and chips. Look at this massive piece of cod. The fish was so flaky and it was super crunchy. I think they went a little overboard on the batter. And look at how big this chip was. They were also nice and salty, and I just love tartar sauce so much. And finally, I got this cottage pie that had braised brisket and beef, and the mashed potatoes still had the skins in them, which is like my favorite part. They were super smooth too. And it came with this crunchy buttered toast. Delicious. And that's all for today. Everything I ate at Disney's Food and Wine Fest. I started off in beautiful Canada with some braised beef poutine. I've never tried poutine before with like actual cheese curds, but it is heavenly. The thick gravy with the juicy beef and the crispy fries. Then I headed to Hawaii for spam musubi. I've never had spam before, but it was like nice and soft, and the teriyaki glaze was sweet too. I also tried this char siu pork udon, and the noodles were super thick. Also, the broth was so salty and savory, but the pork literally melted in my mouth. It was so tender. Then I stopped in Italy for this cheesy gnocchi. The mushrooms were juicy. The gnocchi was so soft and fluffy, and it was like really garlicky too. And look at how pretty Morocco is. Oh my gosh, I got this spiced lamb kebab that was also so tender, and I don't know if this was mayo on top, but it was really good. Also, I got this gorgeous pistachio cake. It had cinnamon cream and candied walnuts, and the sugary chocolate piece on top didn't have much flavor, but the cake itself was delicious. Of course, I had to stop in China for a Mongolian Mongolian beef baozi. I was expecting it to be like closed up like the ones I had in Beijing, but the beef was still like super flavorful and tender. Still not quite as good as China though. Then it was back to Italy for more gnocchi, which was literally piled high with this crispy bacon, and the vodka sauce was so rich. And finally on the way out, I stopped for some ice cream. The cookies and cream one had a great like vanilla-y Oreo cream flavor, and the mint one had these big chocolate chunks in it. Incredible. And that's all for today. Everything I ate in space? You guys, I just went to this space-themed restaurant in Disney. So they give you a ticket, then they take you into this elevator, and you watch as it literally looks like you're shooting up into space. It's so cool. Then once you get inside, they walk you through all of these hallways, and it literally looks like you're in a space station. And then they take you to this restaurant where you're like overlooking the Earth. Oh my gosh. And they have all these cool space-themed drinks that are delicious and also so pretty. This one was called Moon Rocks, and it had Pop Rocks and coconut cotton candy syrup. And then this one came with astronaut ice cream, which is such an interesting texture. It's like crunchy and light. Anyway, each reservation comes with an appetizer, and this calamari came with roasted pepper citrus aioli that was like zesty and rich. Also, the calamari was so tender. Honestly, some of the best calamari I've ever had. And look at this giant pile of tempura fried cauliflower. Oh my gosh, it came with their house-made hot sauce that was like pretty spicy, and it was so crispy, crunchy. And look at this gorgeous braised short rib I got for my entree. It was so tender, it literally fell apart. And oh, it also came with cheesy grits. Like they had a really nice cheddar flavor and were super creamy. It all just kind of melted in my mouth. Then for dessert, I got this plant-based carrot cake. I literally had no idea it was plant-based. It was so soft and buttery, and the candied walnuts added the perfect crunch. And finally, I got this gorgeous chocolate cheesecake that was super fluffy and smooth, and the chocolate ganache was really rich and almost like dense. I also loved the dark chocolate shards, and that's all for today. Only eating at Steak and Shake for a full day. I haven't been to Steak and Shake in forever, but my friend said they have the best chili, so I got this chili spaghetti, which had cheese, onions, and extra beef, and honestly, I really liked it. Like the cheese got all melty, and the chili had some heat, and the onions added the perfect crunch. And then I got this bacon cheese double steak burger, which had onions and pickles, and the patties were really thin, but honestly still pretty juicy and meaty. Also, I loved the cheesy fries. They were super thin and crispy and salty. And of course, I got a shake. This cookie dough chocolate chip one definitely could have had more mix-ins though. Like it just didn't have enough toppings. Also, it was a little icy, but I loved the vanilla flavor. But anyway, later I ordered some takeout, and I tried this fresco melt, which had American and Swiss cheese, and it came on sourdough bread that did have like a nice crispy outside, but it was almost soaked in butter. It was so buttery. It was like hard to eat. I also tried their onion rings, which were pretty thick and really crunchy, but also super greasy. The ranch definitely helped, but I think the fries are way better. And finally, I had to get this Kit Kat M&M milkshake because they were out of the mint one, but they forgot the M&Ms. Oh my gosh, it still had more toppings than the first one. I think maybe they actually put Snickers in it instead, and it was definitely creamier than the first one too. And that's all for today. Only eating at TGI Fridays for a full day. So they have these new fajitas. I really wanted to try the glazed sirloin ones, and they literally come out sizzling hot. Oh my gosh, that blaze sauce is so thick and sweet, and the steak is like tender and juicy. That first bite is honestly perfection. The chicken was also such good quality. It was super moist, and the onions and peppers added so much flavor. Delicious. And just look at this new peanut butter fudge obsession. Oh my gosh, the fudge was so smooth and thick and like nutty. The ice cream was super creamy too, and the Oreo crust was so buttery. Oh, it was so rich. Like I'm actually obsessed. Then of course I ordered takeout, and they have so many appetizers. Like I couldn't decide, but these Philly cheesesteak egg rolls actually sounded so good, and they came with this poblano queso that was so cheesy. They were also super crispy and meaty. And finally, I had to try one of their most popular items, the Cajun shrimp and chicken pasta. Honestly, the Cajun spices add a lot of flavor to the Alfredo, and the shrimp and chicken were cooked perfectly. And I'm such a sucker for that nice, warm, soft garlic bread. It's so good. And that's all for today. Thanks for watching. Only eating Entenmann's for a full day. For breakfast, I got this massive tray of cinnamon buns and these mini apple pies. I heated them up because of course, and the cinnamon bun was super soft and actually like had a lot of cinnamon filling, but it definitely could have had more icing. But you guys, the crust on this apple pie was so good. It was soft, but like still kind of crunchy from the glaze, super sweet, and the filling was gooey and warm. And then for lunch, of course, I had some donuts. These are my favorite. They use this buttery crumb cake topping that is so good. Also, the donut itself is glazed, so it's like double the sugar. And I love this rich chocolate frosting. If If you ever find the Frosted Devil's Food Cake ones though, you have to try them. They're so much better. And I feel like this classic glazed one just melts in your mouth. It's like so sweet and simple, delicious. I also got this massive Louisiana crunch cake. It was topped with coconut and I don't know, it wasn't super crunchy. It was really soft and light though, and it had kind of like a nutty aftertaste. And then for dinner, I got these mini chocolate chip cookies that were so cute. I warmed them up and they were really melty and soft. Honestly, not too sweet either. Like I definitely would recommend them for a kid's party. They're like the perfect snack size. And finally, I tried this lemon loaf cake. It was definitely spongy, but not as moist or like tart or sharp. I don't know. I was just hoping for more flavor. It was just kind of mild. And anyway, that's all for today. Thanks for watching. Only eating at family-owned restaurants for a full day? First up, I went to this cute little neighborhood pub and they recommended these sriracha duck wings that came with gochujang ranch. I've never had duck wings before, but they were super crispy. Also, the glaze was really thick and sweet. And look at this golden brown panko fried fish. It was so flaky. Also, the homemade remoulade was like herby and tangy and rich, delicious. And then for dinner, I went to this little Italian restaurant with my boyfriend's family and their ciabatta bread was warm and soft, but still like a little chewy. Like you could just tell it was freshly baked. And just look at this gorgeous fresh minestrone soup. It was super rich and it had these big chunks of zucchini in it. And gnocchi bolognese is one of my favorite dishes of all time. This one had this juicy, thick ragu meatball and also an Italian sausage that had like the perfect snap. So flavorful. Also, the gnocchi was literally cooked perfectly. It was so smooth and soft and their homemade sauce is super complex. It's like so sweet and bright. And just look at this chicken parm, so cheesy. And also it was pan fried, so it had the perfect crunch. Of course, the spaghetti was al dente and like really acidic too. You already know I had to get dessert. My favorite were these cute little Sicilian cannolis, and I love the sweet cheesy filling, really light and not too sweet. And that's all for today. Only eating cake for a full day. You guys, I just reached 1 million followers, which is insane, but I had to celebrate. So for breakfast, I got this carrot cake from Publix and it was super moist. The cream cheese frosting was really smooth and not too sweet, and the pecans added a nice little crunch. And I saw this red velvet cake that just looked so good. It was really soft and chocolatey and again, not too sweet. Ugh, I love red velvet. Anyway, then for lunch, I went to the Cheesecake Factory because of course I had to get their Oreo Dream Extreme Cheesecake. This might be my favorite dessert of all time. I'm not even kidding. The cheesecake is just so thick and creamy. The Oreos are super crunchy and the chocolate icing is rich and soft and sugary. It's kind of intense, but oh, I love using the big Oreo crust as a spoon and then eating all of that light fluffy whipped cream with it. Then for dinner, I went to Domino's for their lava cakes. I love these so much. They taste like warm, gooey brownies with a crunchy crust. Definitely the best pizza chain dessert of all time, in my opinion. They're just the perfect texture. And finally, I picked up these cupcakes from Walmart. It was only $7 for all 6, and they were filled too. I loved the big crunchy sprinkles on this lemon one. The icing was really sweet, but also smooth and light, and the cake was nice and soft. Oh, and this chocolate one had a ganache on top that was so good. Honestly, they could have all had a little more filling, but the fillings did add a lot of flavor. Anyway, I love you guys. Thanks so much for 1 million, and that's all for today.